What is up, everybody? This is Adam. Welcome back to Fouled Out. It is NFL wildcard weekend, and Matt and I are here to break down the slate of wildcard games, make some picks for you, maybe give you some gambling advice at the end of this podcast. But first, I want to say congrats to the Georgia Bulldogs on their second straight national championship. They won by a lot over TCU last night, probably one of the most one-sided football games I have ever seen in my life. And I turned it off at halftime. I honestly didn't even need to watch the second half. That was absolutely brutal. I've never seen a team dominate another team like that in a playoff scenario like that before. I can name very few that have been that bad. And it was actually the biggest blowout in college football bowl history, in any bowl ever. And it happened to be in the national championship. So absolutely brutal for TCU, but congrats to Georgia. Matt is coming on in just a minute to talk NFL wildcard weekend. Let's go. All right, we are back, and joining me to talk NFL wildcard weekend is the first lieutenant of the Kaze swag club, whatever the hell your running back said after the Green Bay game the other day. Matt is in the building. We're talking NFL wildcard weekend. Matt, how are you, my brother?
I'm doing a lot better than Aaron Rodgers.
We all are, aren't we?
We have been for quite a while. This has been a troubling descent for him.
Yeah, aside from the fact that he's dating some like billionaire's daughter and he's probably like off in a jungle in South America doing ayahuasca right now.
Yeah,
pretty much
but you
better
gotta
though.
think that like that's literally like the social class that he is in. Like there are no other options for him.
Yeah, that's true. But we are not talking about Aaron Rodgers today. We are talking about quarterbacks who actually did make the playoffs this season. And before I say the next line, can I just say thank you to the Lions? Because they knew that they weren't going to make the playoffs before that Green Bay game. And they just made damn sure that Aaron Rodgers wasn't going to make it either. And it's like the level of spite and pettiness is something I can fully support. And now I don't have to watch Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Although I don't get to bet against him. So that's kind of a bummer.
Definitely less easy money this year than in years past. I will say that.
How do you feel about the slate of games this weekend overall?
To put it to a single phrase, what the fuck?
On the podcast a couple weeks ago, we talked about how lit the first round was looking.
Yeah.
It was like, oh man, Miami at Kansas City. It's Tyreek Hill coming back, and like Tua was healthy at the time. It was Burrow versus Herbert. We had all these great matchups. And now it's like there are going to be multiple hours of television this weekend where it's like Skylar Thompson versus Josh Allen. We're going to have to watch the Giants and the Minnesota Vikings play a football game on Sunday. I not as excited about this round as I am about the potential for next round. But if these playoffs are like even half as good as the NFL playoffs were last season, then we're in for a wild ride because last season was absolutely insane.
Yeah. Yeah. Last year was a lot of fun.
It's just like every week was like topping the week before it, at least after wild card weekend. It just got like crazier and crazier. It was like a roller coaster. So I feel like this week is a good time. You know, there's no Monday Night Football this week. There was no Thursday Night Football this week.
Yep.
We just got done with like an 18-week roller coaster season, one of the weirdest seasons we've had. I feel like this is a good week to just like take a deep breath and just be like, okay, it is only going to get more insane from here. And we got to start with this slate of 6 games that we got this weekend.
I mean, what doesn't kill the NFL only makes it stranger.
And it just gets stranger every day. So
yeah, I mean, we have to watch the Giants and the Vikings.
We're going to get to that game in a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to break down all 6 games for you guys and give you some picks. But yeah, there are some odd ones. There are some really odd ones this week. I'm getting to the point where I'm anti-expansion.
Yeah.
In all sports, in all things.
Yep.
I wasn't happy when we went to 7 playoff teams. I wasn't happy when we extended the season. I felt justified for that take this past week watching these last couple games. Like I'm watching Skylar Thompson versus Joe Flacco to determine the 7th playoff spot in the AFC.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I feel very justified in my take that we are going on a little bit too long here. And I feel like it kind of
Yeah.
like the end of the season seemed kind of like a whimper to me.
Yeah. I mean, there's always going to be two sides to that coin, though. Wins and losses don't necessarily like truly tell you how good a team is, right? I think this year has especially exposed that. And the fact that the NFL didn't push it to 8 teams as they were maybe talking about for a little bit means that like yeah, now our lowest seed is the 7 seed and you're watching the Seahawks go to the 49ers, which I don't want to give away our pick, but if you have to guess, then you really haven't been listening to this podcast. Whereas if they had pushed it up to the 8th seed, well, then you're talking about round 1, week 1 rematch, Eagles versus Lions, and who doesn't want to watch that?
That's fair, but then also in the AFC, we would have to watch Chiefs versus Steelers or something else horrible. So
yeah, but that's what I'm saying is like the issue. There's dichotomy there. There's two sides to that coin, and I think that yes, most of the time, like expanding, there's more of these teams that aren't really worth shit are going to get in there, and they're not going to do anything. And we also have to recognize, well, that Giants team with Strahan, they also got in as a wild card, and shit, dude.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I was actually excited to do this podcast. So I've just been like catching strays with this shit all week. I was at lunch for work the other day, and we were talking about like, oh man, it sucks the Lions didn't get in because I wouldn't pick them over San Francisco, but like you always want to have a shot. And one of my coworkers was like, yeah, we watched the Giants do it twice. I'm just like, oh, I thought we were cool, man. I thought we enjoyed working together. Damn. Yeah, the playoffs like this round could have been a lot better too if a couple things had gone differently. Yeah. I mean, for sure, if the Lions had made it over Seattle, a Lions versus San Francisco game is much more entertaining than what we're about to talk about.
Or if the refs in that Rams Seahawks game weren't literally like the worst refs I have ever seen.
That and like, so Miami's playing, and the reason the Miami Buffalo game is like probably my least favorite game of the weekend is because we're going to have Skylar Thompson very likely playing quarterback for Miami.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you guys listen to this podcast, we're not the biggest Tua fans, but like Miami did just go to Buffalo a couple weeks ago and give them a hell of a game with Tua at quarterback. So, injuries are holding it back a little bit. Refs blatantly trying to get Aaron Rodgers to the playoffs and then still failing. It's holding this back a little bit, but we do have some fun ones to talk about, and we're going to go through all of them. But let's start with the game that we already mentioned a couple times. The first game on Saturday at 4:30, the Seattle Sea Chickens at the San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco is favored by 10 points. I'm medium excited for this. I'm whelmed by this game. It's a 2-7, but it is divisional rivals.
It's not going to be particularly exciting, I don't think. The Seahawks, or Sea Chickens, as we prefer to call them, their rushing defense has not been very good all year. And it got a little bit better as the year went on, but they still finished 28th in the NFL. And you're going up against the single best rushing offense in the NFL, and it's not close.
I was reminded Sunday about what we talked about earlier this season. I was watching the 49ers, and Elijah Mitchell is back in the lineup.
Yep.
And it's just like when all their guys are healthy, so like Debo's back and I know they played limited snaps, they did whatever. But
Yeah.
it's like, God, it's Debo and Ayuk and Kittle and McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell and like other guys that are making plays because they're getting open. There's just so many weapons. And the thing that
Yeah.
concerns me most for this game is it just seems to be two teams that are moving in totally opposite directions. So like Seattle, I mean, phenomenal season for Seattle.
Hmm.
All the credit in the world for them. They were expected to
Yeah.
compete for the first pick, and now they're playing a playoff game.
Right.
But they just have not been the same since that trip to Germany.
No.
They played that trap game against the Bucks where it's one of those situations where everybody in the world is betting on the Seahawks because they're like, oh yeah, the Seahawks are so good. And then they get beat by the Bucks in Germany. And like since that game, they're 3-5. Haven't been playing well. I mean, even the games they've won, like we saw them against the Rams on Sunday, did not look good at all. And probably don't even win that one unless they get help from the refs, which they do on a couple really bad penalties. On the other side, the 49ers have won 10 games in a row. And outside of like, how dare you leave me off of your top 10 quarterbacks in the league list, Purdy, play in his first playoff game as a rookie? I don't really see a case here for Seattle to win this game.
They've, I guess, got probably what I would say is the better quarterback, but Purdy hasn't really given us a reason to dislike him either. I mean, obviously, rookie going to the playoffs, a lot could be exposed there, but I don't know if this is the defense to really do that. So,
I mean, it's not like the quarterback on the other side has this huge resume of playoff experience. Like we talked about this with Gino last week.
no,
Doesn't even have a playoff page on Football Reference.
no, but I mean, going 30 touchdowns and 11 interceptions in a season is nothing to scoff at either. So, like his body of work this year has been significantly larger than Brock Purdy's.
Hmm. It's fair, but Brock Purdy's body of work has been excellent as well.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
6-0 since taking over for Jimmy Garoppolo, and he's thrown 2 or more touchdowns in every single game he's played so far.
Mm-hmm.
And it just we talked about this a little bit when he first started off and he kind of started hot. It's like
Right.
Jimmy G, it's not like Jimmy G is that great. And you have so many weapons around you, and you have such a good coach for scheming up an
Mm-hmm.
offense. Like everybody that listens to this knows, I think Kyle
Yeah.
Shanahan is a goddamn offensive genius. That like it's not like you have to do a ton,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you have the number one defense in the NFL on the other side of the ball.
Exactly.
So he's just got to not lose them games for them to
Mm-hmm.
win, especially because like if you look at San Francisco's potential road to a Super Bowl, I think they're set up beautifully to have a little bit of a run here. I mean, Seattle in the first round, potentially Minnesota coming in the second round.
Yeah.
And then you got that game against Philly, but like Philly hasn't scared me recently. So,
No.
I mean, I think if as long as he just plays within himself and kind of like he doesn't have to do a ton outside of like the system and outside of just like playing point guard in this offense, I'm not too worried about him, especially not in this one.
I don't think that they necessarily need to put up 30 plus points in order to win this game. I think that getting to 20 probably makes it pretty safe. And with that running game and the easy looks in the passing game that Shanahan is able to scheme up both through the play action and just by using motion to scare defenses into thinking, okay, there's going to be a jet sweep or something like that. You kind of got to be concerned about with a guy like Deebo Samuel. It's just there's enough there that like the bar is set so low for Brock Purdy to be competent that like it's hard to not see him getting the job done.
Yeah, anything he delivers above replacement quarterback play is just like a bonus for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think about like, I mean, obviously I just mentioned number one defense by DVOA this season. I just think about like the offense they can have, like all the guys I named, you can put Ayuk, Kittle, Debo, Elijah Mitchell and Christian McCaffrey all on the field at the same time.
Yep.
Nobody in the NFL has better weaponry than that.
Yeah.
Nobody. And I don't even know, like, if we were going to go through and rank who the number 2 team is, I don't know that the number 2 team is particularly close in terms of skill position talent to what these guys have at every position. It's pretty impressive what they've put together here. So,
Yeah.
and this is what they did when they traded for Christian McCaffrey, because that was their version of like the all-in trade.
Yeah.
Because now they don't have a lot of picks this season. So this is it, man. This is your run if you're them. Probably anticipating doing this with like a Trey Lance or a Jimmy Garoppolo, but we are where we are, and Brock Purdy's played great football so far this season. So I'm excited to see what he does here. I'm excited to see what Geno does in his first playoff game, coming off of an excellent season, his breakout season.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shame for him that he has to go up against such a tough defense, but I think we learn a lot.
Yeah. I will say, like, his play has fallen off as the season's gone on a little bit. Not terrible. Like, he's not been terrible. Obviously, last week wasn't great. But to be fair to him, I will say, like, when the rest of the team around you starts playing more poorly, there's a whole discussion to be had about Jared Goff. But what I will say is look at Jared Goff the back half of the season and look at Jared Goff when he started in Detroit. Like, the play of the guys around you at quarterback makes a significant difference in the capacity that you are able to play.
Yeah, I guess if you were going to build the case for how would Seattle win this game, it's rookie quarterback struggles and DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett go off.
Yeah. Right.
I think that's it. But I mean, I think we're both leaning the same way. I think San Francisco is probably the safe pick here.
Yeah.
10 is a lot of points, but I can see them getting that done.
That defense on San Francisco, like, they're going to be able to get after Geno. So the way that you try to combat that is, okay, well, like, DK Metcalf is an incredible receiver, but his physical profile makes him great at particular routes and kind of takes some other routes out of the question. But he's like borderline unstoppable on a slant, so you just run that. But that defense is good enough. They're like, okay, well, like, we're not going to let you house 4 slants in a game. Like, you can't win a game that way against this defense.
No, it's a tall order for Seattle. So we're both going San Francisco. I want to mention this is like the 17th playoff game in a row that we've agreed on the pick. Something like this on the podcast. The funny thing about last season is that we did the wild card podcast and we agreed on all 6 games. And the feedback we got from the podcast was like, oh, you guys agreed too much. We wanted to hear more like argument and more cases for the other team. And we just fucking went 6-0 like immediately. And it was like, well, that's so when we agree on it, I feel much more comfortable with the pick.
Yeah.
All right. Game 2, Saturday night at 8:15. The Los Angeles Chargers visit the Jacksonville Jaguars. This started as Chargers -1.5, and now it's down to a pick 'em.
Yeah.
I'm excited, like, narrative wise for this game.
I'm very curious about how this game goes.
So 2 young stud quarterbacks playing in their first playoff game against each other, Herbert and Lawrence.
Yeah.
We kind of talked about the narrative the other day of like Lawrence was like the god prospect. He was the best thing since Andrew Luck. He's the sliced bread of quarterback prospects.
Yep.
Justin Herbert was a big quarterback prospect that, I mean, the vast majority of people who talk football did not believe in him.
No.
Almost everybody will admit that. Like, oh, I did not believe in Justin Herbert. So he's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, even though he was taken like, 6th or 7th in the draft. Let me ask you a question about this, though. Coming into this game, do you feel good about either of these teams?
Define feel good about.
Are you going to confidently make a pick at the end of this segment?
Hell fucking no.
No, I don't feel good about either of these teams either.
No, because, like, do I just need to say it's the Jags? Like, but also, like, Doug Peterson is just not a good coach. Like he's an upgrade, a significant upgrade. Don't get me wrong, but like not good. And then the other side as well, Charge is going to charge. So
Yeah, to be fair with the Doug Peterson thing, though, I would have been a significant upgrade over Urban Meyer.
yes,
Just have an adult in the room. Not that I'm the
yeah.
most mature person in the world, but I'm better than Urban, right? I don't even really know how to coach NFL football. I just be like, guys, listen, I'm not Urban Meyer.
You know what?
That just be my
I
whole thing.
I am gonna fly home with you after this game today.
Not going to lose me in a bar in Ohio. Of all the places not to fly home with your team from, Ohio, Ohio. I opened a hotel in Cleveland, Ohio one time, and I went to a store to buy gifts, and they had shirts hanging in the window of the store that said Cleveland. It's not that bad. Have a beer. So like of all places to ditch your team and like say I want to stay here and party. Ohio.
Your take on that was a little different than I thought you were gonna go, but maybe that's just because this is my gripe with it. Of all the places to get weird and creepy and gross with college co-eds, really? The bar that literally has a picture of you and your wife right behind it.
In Ohio.
And yes,
Uh,
I
uh,
honestly,
America's armpit. I feel like I will never be able to talk about the Jags without talking about this. Like, we're talking about the Jags in the playoffs for the first time in years, like, fantastic turnaround by the Jaguars organization. Great turnaround this season after starting bad. And the only thing I can think about is that Urban Meyer ditched his team to stay in Ohio and party with Ohio co-eds. The armpit of America's co-eds. God. But yeah, I mean, so on football wise, because Urban Meyer is not coaching for the Jaguars anymore.
God, we're the worst.
At least this podcast is recorded in Detroit and not Ohio. Okay. Football wise, I don't feel good about either of these teams really. So I had a hefty bet on the Jaguars to beat the Titans the other day. So I watched the entire game. Man, Trevor Lawrence looked bad against the league's worst pass defense. Like the Titans have been the worst pass defense in the league by far this season. He was missing throws all over the place. And like, granted, they were getting a lot of pressure on him. But like everybody has torched that defense this season, even when they're fully healthy.
Yeah.
And it just became apparent at some point in that game that they were not going to win unless the defense did it for them. And I'm watching like Joshua Dobbs, who wasn't even in the NFL like 4 weeks ago, move the ball up and down the field against this defense. And I'm just like, my God, if I have to watch Josh Dobbs start an NFL playoff game next week, I'm going to lose my shit. Thank God the defense did come up with a play. I won my bet, but like I did not feel good about the Jaguars offensively last week. And now you're going from that to the Chargers defense, which is 7th in terms of yards per game against the pass and 10th in passing DVOA. And they're going to get pressure on you too. So this is going to be a much steeper challenge for him this week.
I would love to look at this and say, well, yeah, I mean, the Chargers are the better team, so therefore we should expect them to win this. I feel like they never come through in those situations. And like in fairness to Justin Herbert, he hasn't really had that opportunity. When he has had a chance, he'll like go down and score, and then the defense will give up a score and they'll lose the game anyways.
Well, so this is my thing. I just made this whole case against the Jags.
Yep.
But I said I don't feel good about either team because the team on the other side of the ball is the Chargers.
Yes.
Not that it needs more explanation, but Chargers gonna charge is like a saying for a reason. And I feel like they already started charging last week because they had their playoff spot locked up. They weren't moving up or down. They weren't going anywhere. Nope. And they're like, you know what we're going to do? we're going to play all of our starters. And even though they played all the starters, they lost to the Denver Broncos.
Yep.
And like, granted, the starters only played 3 quarters, but it's not like the Broncos outscored them by a ton in the fourth. The Chargers actually outscored the Broncos in the fourth quarter 8-7. So, like, you weren't winning when your starters left and you didn't win the game. So, it just like, it doesn't make sense. And then, of course, Mike Williams leaves the game with a back injury. And now we don't know if he's going to play this week. It's
Yeah.
so Chargers that it makes me sick. I need
I
like a
mean,
"That's so Ravens" sign that says "That's so Chargers."
if I hadn't watched the Jaguars this week, my money would already be on them. It's a tough call. Like this is literally a coin flip, both Vegas and like just analytically.
I feel like nobody wants to give a take on this game, so even Vegas is like, I don't know, just pick them, just whatever. Same odds. You pick who you want to win. You're probably no matter who you pick, you're probably going to lose. But who is your pick in this game? Because I don't even know what else to say about the Chargers. Like that is so Chargers. That's the phrase is going to
Yeah,
evolve. It's going to
that
evolve from
is.
Chargers. We're going to charge to that's so Chargers.
Yeah, that's merch.
Put it in the store, baby.
The store we haven't made.
That's the best part about the store is that it doesn't really exist, and
It
so
it's in our head and
it's
our
got
hearts.
it's got so many shirts in it. It's crazy.
I mean, I feel like I have to go Chargers.
I was going to ask you if you just want to go on to the next game. Just
Yeah,
like, fuck it, we're not even going to make a pick. Just like, eh.
I think Chargers. I mean, Austin Eckler is still a massive weapon, and it's one that while I will say that there have definitely been significant points in the season where the Jaguars defense has been an answer for them, and their linebackers have done rather well against the run this year, actually. Their linebackers do not do particularly well against the pass with running backs. And Austin Eckler can do some damage there. And I could see that making a major difference in this game.
Yeah, so we agree here too. I am also going to go Chargers. Both of these teams are going to want to throw the ball. Jacksonville is bottom 3 in pass DVOA defense, and the Chargers throw the ball the second most of any team in the league. Mike Williams is questionable right now. I think he probably plays, or he plays as much
Yeah.
as he can in this game. And when I'm looking at like, okay, you both want to throw. The Chargers have superior weapons. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler. Not that the Jags are bad because they got, Zay Jones and Christian Kirk both had good seasons. I obviously am a big ETN fan.
Uh, they still have Marvin Jones Jr. too,
Yep.
who is flying under the radar, but like you're talking about who you need to make a catch to get you the first down on that roster. And like he's my first pick, and it's not close.
And Evan Ingram's actually had a great season for them
Yeah,
as well. He's had a couple breakout games. So maybe a little bit deeper weaponry on
yeah, I would
Jacksonville's
agree.
side, but the defense is what's going to do it for me. The Chargers are
Yeah,
very good against their top 10 DVOA against the pass, not good against the run, but Jacksonville's defense is not like particularly great against anything, and they're really bad against the pass. So I'll give the Chargers the edge there. I think the way to beat the Chargers is really to be patient and like run the ball on them a lot. And I just don't know that Jacksonville does that with Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. Like if you
yeah.
told me they were going to come out and that there's going to be like some motion in that offense, they were going to run some read option with ETN and Trevor Lawrence and stuff like that, I maybe see a little bit more of a case for it. But
Yeah,
I think that the Chargers have the edge. Their offense going up against Jacksonville's defense. So I'll take the Chargers too.
I don't see them leading into their strengths enough to combat their weaknesses.
Agreed. So we've agreed on like 18 straight playoff games.
Yep.
We're gonna push the streak to 19 here. The first game on Sunday, Dolphins at Bills, 1 p.m. on Sunday. The Bills are favored by 10. It actually went down to like 9. This is the game I'm least excited about this weekend because it's very likely that our quarterback matchup is Josh Allen versus Skylar Thompson.
Yeah.
I might change my tune a little bit if Tua was playing in this game, but I'm at the point where if the Dolphins play Tua, I think that multiple people in that organization need to go to prison. It's irresponsible. You cannot put him out there this weekend. You cannot do it. So if it's Skylar Thompson versus Josh Allen ends one way, and it's Bills by infinity points.
Yeah.
Infinity points. Like there's no spread that is big enough for me not to take the Bills this weekend. -9, fine. 10, 11, 12, 13, 17, 35. I'm picking the Bills. I'm probably betting on them too.
If Skylar Thompson starts, then I'm expecting it to look like the national championship game.
I want to also, like, while we're talking about this game, award CBS with the fouled out worst TV segment of the year award. So the Dolphins beat the Jets to make the playoffs. And after the game, the sideline reporter for CBS or whatever channel it was on is interviewing Skylar Thompson on the sideline. And she's like, the Dolphins finally break their playoff drought, and it's Skylar Thompson at quarterback who gets it done. How do you feel? And he's like, well, my teammates believe in me, my coaches believe in me, and blah, blah, blah. Skylar Thompson was complete and utter ass all season. He appeared in 7 games and had a QBR of 27. A QBR of 27 basically means that if you threw the ball straight into the ground every play, he was worse than that. He was worse than me. If I spiked the ball every single play, I would have a higher QBR than this guy. And they're interviewing him like he just threw for 400 yards and led his team. The offense didn't score on Sunday. The Dolphins offense didn't score. It was 11-6. They had 3 field goals and a safety. And they're interviewing Skylar Thompson. They're like, Skylar, you fucking did it. You worked so hard all season. You did it. And he's just like, I'm so happy. I'm so blessed, blah, blah, blah. Bills by infinity. Bills by fucking infinity. There's no spread big enough for this game.
So what I'm getting is you're not a Skylar Moore believer. Or Thompson, whatever.
I am a Sky Moore believer.
We are both Sky Moore.
Yeah, we like Sky Moore. Don't you dare slander Sky Moore in this segment.
But Thompson, fuck that guy.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention real quick, do you have anything like to add analysis wise to this game? It's Bills Dolphins.
Look, if you're listening to this and you need more analysis on this game, go find a hobby. That's not going to be a game. It's a bloodbath.
No, this is one of the things about this podcast is that, like, we're not going to lie to you guys and we're not going to stretch shit out just to come up with content.
Yeah.
I don't see any way. I don't see any way that Skylar Thompson goes into Buffalo and beats the Bills.
It's specifically why I haven't watched ESPN in years, other than if there's a game on there that I need to watch.
I would be the worst ESPN analyst because if I was on a segment and they're like, all right, Adam, how does Miami potentially beat Buffalo this weekend? I would just be like, no. Nope, they don't. They don't. I'm not doing this fucking segment for you, Stephen A. Smith. They'd be like, okay, Adam, you got to be on the other side of Stephen A. Smith and argue with him and make a case for the Miami Dolphins. I'm like, no, I'll just start taking my microphone off. I'm not doing this. I'm sorry. Void my contract. I do just want to say, though, so I watched some of the Buffalo Bills and Patriots game on Sunday.
Yeah.
I probably turned it off after the second kick return for a touchdown by Buffalo. I'm not trying to make light of the situation in Buffalo, but the DeMar Hamlin thing is starting to feel like one of those things that really unifies a team to make a playoff run and win a championship. I was thinking about like 2013, the Boston Red Sox. They had the Boston Marathon bombing that year,
Yeah.
and they do the whole like David Ortiz comes out and is my fucking city, and they go on to win the championship, and it's like this big magical run for like a kind of an underdog team. And not that the Bills are an underdog, but I'm just waiting for like, they may have to play a neutral site game against the Chiefs in the
Yeah.
AFC Championship. Could you see just like Damar Hamlin like showing up at like the neutral site AFC Championship, or like showing up at the Super Bowl if he's healthy enough, like, in a wheelchair or something, or like,
Yeah.
you know, I just, I was watching them and I was watching how emotional the team was and all the fans were
Yeah.
on Sunday. And I was like, this is the kind of shit that like unifies the team to like go on and get this done finally. And it's like
Yeah.
it's the storybook shit for like a team in Buffalo that's never won a Super Bowl, even
Yep.
though they made four in a row and lost all four of them.
To add a little bit of background to it, like this isn't just like, I mean, yeah, it's random, but like this isn't really just like some random player that it happened to. Like that charity that everyone started donating to after he got hurt, like he started doing that back in college. Like he didn't have money. Like that's the kind of person that that kid is. So like the love that they have for that guy and like the kind of bonding that's coming from it, like it's not strictly out of charity. It's out of like the tragedy of the situation. It's genuine like brotherhood because they love that person that much.
For sure. So we're both on the Bills. Game 2 on Sunday, 4:30 p.m. is the aforementioned Giants at Vikings. The Vikings are currently favored by 3. I hate this game.
Yes.
I hate it because we've been talking about betting against the Vikings for like 12 weeks now on this podcast. We were so excited about it. We're just like, it's been weeks and weeks where we've just been like, listen, the Vikings are frauds. You guys can go back and listen to the entire season
Yeah.
of this podcast this season. We're like, the Vikings are frauds. Bet against them in the playoffs. Do it. They finished the season 13-4 with a negative 3 point differential.
Yeah.
As a point of reference, the other teams in the NFL that had 13 or more wins this season finished with point differentials of plus 173, plus 169, plus 133, and plus 127. Literally the 4 highest in the league this season. The Vikings finished 27th in DVOA.
Yep.
27th. Down with like the Broncos and the Rams and the Cardinals. And I say all of this to say that I guarantee I would be betting against them if they weren't playing the goddamn Giants.
Right. Oh my God.
Who, while being slightly better in terms of advanced statistics, finished the season with a negative 6 point differential. And we're only 21st in DVOA. So slightly better than the Vikings, but disappointed, man.
Yeah, this
If it was any other team, I would be jumping
right.
all over the away team.
Yes. And honestly, I'm not gonna pretend that like I didn't give it some thought.
When it comes to two teams like this, where like, okay, neither team is really that good. I gotta default to the fact that the Vikings have the best player.
Yep.
They have Justin Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what else to say about it.
Yeah.
I feel like this is the type of game where like, so we've been saying it all season that the Vikings are frauds.
Yeah.
I feel like the public has just recently started to catch on to it.
Yep.
And I feel like this is the type of game where we go into Sunday and like 80% of the public money is on the Giants to win this. Because all these public bettors are like, oh yeah, look at me, I'm so smart. The Vikings actually suck, and the Giants have plus odds, and I'm gonna make a bunch of money and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And the Vikings like pull it out and screw everyone.
Yeah. I mean it's what they've done all year. And It's just dumb shit that like the ball bounces their way. Like that fucking Bills game. Should have lost that game at like 4 different points.
No, and I've said this before this season. There's something to be said for the fact that they've been able to win close games.
Yeah.
But as we know, close games are typically about 50-50, and there is some regression
Yeah.
due for them. I just don't know if it comes this week against the Giants.
With stuff like that, like if your team is progressing over the course of the season, those games don't keep happening. You take the lead and then you put the game away. It's not that like you won't have any more one score games the rest of the year, but it's like it's not an every single week thing anymore. It's not sustainable. I've said it all year. And I don't think this is the week that finally really gets them. But like I wouldn't be dumbfounded because they're the Vikings.
Mm-hmm. My concern isn't that they've played so many one score games. My concern is that it's like every time they play a team that's less talented than them,
Yeah.
it's a one score game.
Right.
And then
Well,
every time
they're the ones that make it a one score game.
I
It's
know.
not the other team playing up.
No, but then like when they do play a team that's like as talented or more talented than them, they get like mollywopped. You know, like the Packers even destroyed them a couple weeks ago. The Cowboys annihilated them. And then like, you know, they beat the Bears by 2 scores this weekend. They're like, yeah, we're turning it around. Here we go. And it's like, you know,
a Bears team that hasn't won in like 10 weeks. Like
I think it is. It's actually more concerning that they only beat Nathan Peterman by 2 scores.
Yeah.
That may be more concerning to me than anything else we've said leading up to this segment. That said, I'm picking the Vikings.
I can't bring myself to pick Daniel Jones to win a playoff game. Not until he's actually done it, I guess.
Yeah, I don't feel good about it. I'm not happy about it, but I wouldn't feel good if I was picking the Giants either. So, I mean, Minnesota's at home. They have Justin Jefferson. I'm just going to rely on Justin Jefferson to have a big game and kind of carry them through this. But I mean, I hate the game because of the situation that it put us in for our picks and for gambling. But I'm actually excited to watch this game. Like, I think it'll actually be a fun game to watch because it's probably going to be close. Probably be a 1-score game. Probably some wacky stuff is going to happen.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I think it's going to be a fun game in that sense. Like that's the way it's going to be fun.
Yes, this
not like Mahomes versus Josh Allen a couple of years ago. Fun.
I just think literally anything could happen in this game. It's beautiful chaos.
Like I said, the end of that Vikings Bills game, but like for 60 minutes.
Yeah. Like if I'm ranking the games this weekend, this is probably like third for me. I think I'm like Jacksonville versus Chargers, Cowboys versus Bucks, which we'll talk about in a sec.
Yeah.
Giants versus Minnesota. I think those are the ones maybe the next game we're going to talk about. We'll see.
Yeah.
The next one is the Sunday night 8:15. The Ravens at the Bengals. Bengals are favored by 6.5.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit difficult to pick this game right now because we do not know who is going to play quarterback for the Ravens this weekend.
Yeah.
Something really weird is going on with Lamar Jackson right now. And I'll give you my take on it. You let me know what you think. I think he's hurt, but not so hurt that he can't play. But with all the drama this season and the fact that they didn't take care of him before the season started and get his contract locked away, it adds a little bit more math to the decision of like, do I really need to come back and play? Because now, like I'm playing injured, and not that he can't play, but like you're risking your health and you're risking potentially a massive deal that's going to be on the table for you when free agency starts in a couple months.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely can see that during the regular season, especially once they locked up a wild card spot. Like they were already going to the playoffs.
Well, they had a chance to win the division last week, and he didn't play though.
Yeah, I get that. But I mean, I feel like that was a kind of a tall task considering the Bengals were almost certainly going to win.
Yes, but like
But
I
yeah,
just feel like if you're
it's not something that you want to see.
no, I feel like if he had already signed, and I could be completely off base here, but I feel like if he had already
Yeah.
signed his big money deal and had guaranteed money coming in next season,
Yeah.
that he's probably playing last week,
Yeah.
right? Because it's been like, oh, he got hurt, and it's like it was like week 14, and they're like he's probably going to be back like week 16 or 17. And we get to
Mhm.
week 16, and it's like, oh yeah, probably 17. We get to 17, and it's like, oh, maybe next week, probably the playoffs. And then like we get to last week, and it's like, yeah, it's going to be Anthony Brown to give us a shot at like potentially winning the division. And it's like all of the things like, and Harbaugh just seems like
Yeah.
sick of it. They asked him about it, and he's like basically just like, I don't know, he's going to play when he's going to play, kind of
Yeah.
alluding to the fact that it's Lamar's decision not to play and not necessarily the Ravens coaching staff and medical staff.
Hmm.
So it's the vibe is off to me. And you know that when you
Yeah.
fail the fouled out vibe check, it's a bad sign for you.
I do think like that factor is in there. We've seen Lamar this season interact with fans holding up signs talking about needing to pay him. Uh which like look, I it's funny to see from a fan's perspective, but when you're talking about the face of your franchise doing stuff like that when you are in negotiations, it is a bit concerning.
Negotiations aren't going well if
Nope.
that stuff's happening. I'll
Yeah.
tell you that.
Yeah. And it honestly just raises the question of like, is it even possible for them to come to terms ever at this point?
Well, the rumors right now are no. The rumors are that
Yeah.
he's trying to get out now, and they
Yeah.
could franchise him, but like this
They
is
can
the thing.
franchise him for what, 2 years, 3 years,
Yeah,
something
for
like that.
ridiculous sums of money though.
Which is exactly what he's asking for anyways. So
Right, but just no guaranteed
yep,
future, right? So
exactly.
I don't blame Lamar if that is the case. I'm not trying to like be like, oh,
No.
Lamar's this bad guy and he's greedy. Like this is we're talking about generational wealth at this
Yep.
point. We're talking, you know, 200, 300, 400 million dollar deals
Yeah.
for quarterbacks in the future. And if that's on the table for you and you're looking at it and you're like, man, I'm hurt. I could play, but as we all know, if you play hurt, your risk for a bigger injury is much higher.
Yep.
So if I'm like, I don't want to be on this team next year, they screwed me in negotiations, they don't care
Yeah.
about me. What's my incentive to go out there hurt and be like, okay, I'm going to try to win you guys a playoff game?
Yeah.
It's just not there. But
My only counter argument to that is I would say like if you're trying to get someone to come get you, if you're reading out the writing on the wall, they ain't letting you walk. Like they are not letting Lamar Jackson walk. Real good way to get a team to throw whatever it takes to come trade for you. Go out there and win a playoff game. A playoff game that you're not expected to win.
well, especially because that's the biggest knock on him right now is that
Yep.
playoff performance has been poor,
Yeah.
even his MVP season. So yeah, it's tough. I mean, assuming Lamar plays, I don't love Cincinnati by 6.5. I think that's too many points if
Yeah.
Lamar's playing because it
The style of play it makes it closer just in and of itself. Like they're going to slow the game down.
it's division rivals. They split the season series. The Ravens won the first game 19-17, and then Bengals
Yeah.
beat them this past week, but like with Anthony Brown at quarterback. And honestly, like I kind of felt like they should have beat him by a lot more with how
Yeah.
Anthony Brown played because it was only 27-16. But I'm gonna go Cincy either way,
Yeah.
kind of no matter who the quarterback on the Ravens is, just because we've talked about it ad nauseum this season. I believe in Joe Burrow. I just
Hmm.
believe in Joe Burrow's ability to win playoff games, and I don't see him losing this wild card game at home to this Ravens team that's got this bad vibes all over the place, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. And I mean, I've been talking about it since this podcast was founded. I firmly believe that Baltimore needs to make a move at their offensive coordinator position. I do not believe that you can win a playoff game against a respectable NFL defense with passing playbook that they currently have. It's not up to par with the rest of the other 31 teams in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. And not like the Bengals head coach is that great. Like Zach Taylor's, I
No,
think, he's pretty good, not great.
no,
He's
but he
okay.
managed to come over here with a very similar playbook to Sean McVay.
Mm. But Lou Anarumo, the defensive coordinator for the Bengals, that dude is
Yeah,
he's that dude. That dude is that dude. Like you remember back to last season, we did a whole like half-hour podcast
yeah,
segment about the adjustments he made to shut Patrick Mahomes down in the AFC Championship.
yeah,
Beautiful, beautiful work by him. And the Bengals, I think this is the misnomer on the Bengals is that they did not make it to the Super Bowl last year based on their offense. I mean, like Joe Burrow did what Joe Burrow needed to do, but that was like a complete team effort to get them through. It's not like they were going through and just lighting people up with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase.
yeah,
So, uh, yeah, I'll go. So we're both going Cincy.
yeah.
Okay, we've agreed on 5 out of 6, but this one might test us. This one might test our agreeing skills here.
A resolve.
The final game, the shameless money grab Monday Night Football of Wild Card Weekend. I went back and listened to our wild card podcast from last year today, and I bitched about the 17 game schedule, the 7 teams making the playoffs, and the Monday Night Football game. And I was like, I'm going to hit all 3 of those things again this year, baby, because I'm still complaining about it. I am a sports curmudgeon. I think you can call me that, where everybody's like, oh man, 12 college football playoff teams. This is going to be fun. And I'm like, I don't need to see Georgia beat another team by 60. Not enjoyable.
I mean, in fairness, Georgia definitely would have had a bye.
Probably. And they only beat Ohio State by 1. So I'm just kind of talking shit here. All right. Monday Night Football money grab game of the week. 8:15 on Monday. The Dallas Cowboys at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Dallas currently favored by 3. How are we feeling?
Conflicted.
I,
And only because Tampa has been bad.
I just like this is the ultimate head versus heart game to me.
Yeah.
My head says pick Dallas. Tampa's been bad all season. They've told you who they are all season. And as I
Yeah.
always say, if someone tells you who they are, believe them. But are we really going to pick the Dallas Cowboys to beat Tom Brady in the playoffs? It's Tom Brady
Yeah.
in the playoffs against the Dallas Cowboys.
Dak has been rough of late.
It's been bad lately. They played a bad game on Sunday against the Washington Fighting Georges.
Yep.
A bad game. But also, we're only a couple weeks removed from Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers needing overtime to beat Trace McSorley and the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah.
So I don't know where to go with this one, man. I feel like you take the stickers off the helmets, you give me like the blind resume, and I'm probably picking Dallas. but I can't get away from the fact that it's Tom Brady versus the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs. Like the Dallas Cowboys,
Yeah,
who are probably like second in the league amongst like teams that you would just pick to choke, right? I would say
right.
number one is Green Bay to choke a playoff game.
Yeah,
Dallas is a very close second. It's like a 1A, 1B situation versus the greatest quarterback of all time and Tom Brady, who like he's looked better lately, I guess. The offense has looked a little bit better lately, but God, it's just such a shit season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
yeah.
They were so bad all year.
Here's my thing about this game. If this stays tight and it's close and it's like a tight, low scoring game, Tom's already won the game. Like you know that he's gonna put that one drive together and Dak Prescott won't be able to do it. Like you know that. That is a given. It's the other three quarters that I worry about.
It does just feel like it could be one of those games where it's just like, people who pick Dallas or people who bet on Dallas, you're feeling good for 3 quarters. You start getting into nut crunching time,
Yep.
and Dallas is up, 4, and Tom Brady gets the ball, 2 minutes left to go in the game. And you're just like, I've seen this movie so many times. So many times. This game, like, to me, it's going to come down to the trenches. So Dallas is top 3 in quarterback pressure rate. And Tampa Bay, while they've been bad at a lot of things this season, they've protected the quarterback better than anybody else in the league. They have the lowest pressure rate allowed. So it's like one of the best teams at getting pressure versus one of the best teams at like protecting. The Cowboys definitely have more roster talent. The Buccaneers' inability to run the ball kind of scares me too.
Yeah.
I mean, they're one of the worst rushing teams of all time. Of all time. They're 32nd in the league in rushing. They're 32nd in rushing DVOA. They're, I think, not even getting to 80 yards per game. So, like, they're going to ask Tom Brady to throw this ball between 35 and 45 times on Sunday. And that's a lot of opportunities for Michael Parsons and some of the guys on Dallas to get after him. It's so like one way, like, yeah, I see it. I see what you're saying. If it's a close game and Tom Brady gets the ball late, we've seen this movie before. On the other side, the other movie we've seen with Tom Brady in the playoffs is that people who do beat Tom Brady tend to get a lot of pressure on him with 4 and protect in the back. And
Yep.
Dallas is certainly capable of that with the pass rushers they have up front.
Yeah. That is true. I mean, the Bucks are 6-4 this year in one-score games, if that matters. I mean, obviously, there's a certain amount of luck in that, but I think there's also a factor of like you kind of got to throw all that out the window when you get in the playoffs, anyways, because most teams in the playoffs are able to close out games, anyways. That being said, I do not think this is the case here.
So which way are you going?
I don't think I can like sleep at night if I were to pick the Dallas Cowboys and then watch Tom Brady do what Tom Brady has done his entire career. So I'm going to ride with Tom.
It's brave. This is going to be the first playoff game that we disagree on, I think, like in the history of this podcast.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's heart versus head. To me, my heart wants to pick Tom Brady. I'm obviously like a huge Tom Brady stan.
Yeah.
I love the guy. He's the greatest of all time. Every single statistic is begging me to take Dallas. They're way higher in DVOA. Vegas is saying take Dallas. I don't feel good about it.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the Dallas Cowboys.
I think the big question here is like, what version of that offense are you getting? That's the thing that has, I think, me most worried about Dallas is like, if you get the Dak that just is out of control, then it's already over in the first quarter.
The one thing I'm like really interested, so like I actually really like this game. I think it's going to be an entertaining game to watch.
Yeah.
The thing that's really interesting to me is like, okay, if you're Dallas and you don't get this done, Like, is this the last time we see this version of the Dallas Cowboys? Like, I know it's a road playoff game, but like they've just been
Yeah.
disappointing every single year. And you got to make a change at some point, right? If it just keeps not working, and that like this has been the season, it's been like, oh man, they've
Yeah.
played pretty good defensively all season. They've played great special teams all season, and like, yeah, they've fallen off lately, but we talked about this. It's like, God, if you just don't have Dak, you don't ask Dak to do that much and let the rest of this roster take over for you.
Yeah.
It's a good team. There's a lot of blue chip players on this team.
Yeah.
And I think what we've seen the last
Yeah.
couple of weeks is they're like, yeah, fuck it. We're going to throw it with Dak 37 times.
Hmm.
And that's where you really start getting into trouble. So I think
Yeah.
if you don't get it done this season, like wholesale changes.
Yeah.
I mean, McCarthy could go. Maybe they try to bring in like Sean Payton and throw like a first round pick at the Saints. I could see that being a possibility. Uh, I would say it has to be changes all over the place for Dallas because you can't keep running out this same core if you keep failing and you lose to an 8-9 Bucks team that just looked like absolute dog shit almost the entire season.
It'll be interesting to see how Dallas attacks this on offense. Because do you really want to run at Vita Vea? It's not a thing that historically has worked very well. And I know that they haven't been as good on defense this year, but man, like I could see the big guy getting up for a monster game just because it's the playoffs.
I mean, they've been better on defense this season. And like you look at like the rough statistics, just like the counting stats, and it looks like they've been much better than Dallas. But like if we're looking
Yeah,
DVOA, which I'm a big believer in, Tampa is 13th in defensive DVOA and Dallas was
yeah,
second. Um,
yeah,
Also, Dallas is 10th in special teams. Tampa Bay was 31st in special teams DVOA.
yeah. That's a
So
problem.
I think they have an advantage in a couple phases of the game, and I don't feel good about it, but
Yeah,
I got to go with I'm a statistics guy, and all the statistics are pointing the same direction. It's just that my heart is and will always be with Tom Brady.
it looks like Vita Vea might actually be out.
No, well,
If that is the case, then I am off the Buccaneers. I mean, if they're able to just run the ball and keep the ball out of his hands, then Dak isn't going to really be able to screw them over.
yeah, he's questionable with a calf. So,
Yeah,
uh, I want to like push you to change your pick to the Cowboys because this is going to be the first playoff pick on this podcast where we disagreed.
yeah,
We're not going to go 6-0 playoff picks, at least not together, but that's okay.
yeah. I mean, looking at some of the injuries that they have on their defense, I don't know if I can confidently stick with that pick. Uh, yeah, they're missing some big pieces on defense, or if they do play, they will be playing pretty banged up. I am going to revise that pick and say this is going to be a very ugly and shameful Cowboys victory.
Whoa, 6-0 podcast picks. We're back, baby. So we are rolling with the 49ers, the Chargers, the Bills, the Vikings, the Bengals, and the Cowboys for the podcast picks this weekend. Since we tentatively agree on all six, I am going to parlay all six together. 6 money lines, baby. The one bet I have placed so far is 3-leg parlay, and it's 49ers, Bengals, and Bills. That's about like minus 117 ish. So a little bit
Yeah,
less than plus odds, but those are the picks I'm most confident in right now. And then we'll probably put some money down on a couple others as well. But
yeah.
uh, that is it for us. As always, Fouled Out can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Overcast, anywhere you get your podcast. You can hit us up on Twitter at Fouled Out Sports. You can find Matt on Twitter at Matador_defense. You can find our videos on TikTok at Fouled Out Sports Podcast. It's a long name, but you can't miss it. You can also get 4 additional podcasts per month on our Patreon at patreon.com/fouledout. Going to have a little like college football recap / look ahead one coming at you guys soon. And Matt and I still owe you guys a quarterbacks podcast.
We do.
So that we're going to do it. We're going to do it. It'll come out. We'll talk about all the college quarterbacks this draft and the next couple and which ones we're most excited for. So, but my friend, enjoy the football games this weekend. It's going to be an excellent weekend. And I think set us up for an even better divisional round.
Yeah.
Because if you look at like the picks we just made, the 4 quarterbacks left in the AFC are going to be Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, and Herbert.
Yeah.
And that is a round of football that I want to watch.
That is what the kids call lit.
Lit.
Because I know Marshall will love that so much.
We are welcome to the Liddy Committee. Quick note, real quick before we sign off. I asked Marshall what he got for his girlfriend for her birthday over the weekend. And he told me, and I texted him back, and I was like, that is W. Riz, my guy. And he's just like, Jesus Christ, Uncle Adam. Rough one for the poor kid. But all right, my friend, I will talk to you soon, and we will see you guys next week.
Yep. Have fun, guys.
All right. Bye, guys. Bye, Mom.
Bye, Robin.